today with the firing of Dr. Mark T. Esper.
Yeah, that was interesting, huh?
Oh, that's wonderful is what that is. He was a real pill. And he was a NATO proponent and municipal government, one world government proponent from day one. A really snide, nasty agency type yokel. And very arrogant and very much in favor of bilking us to pay the rest of the world's defense costs forever and ever. Yeah, it's not enough that we've paid the defense costs of Europe for the last, 55 years? They just expected us to continue doing that forever and ever. At no cost to them. We should just all bear that on our weary little backs. No, and we should bear the lion's share for Australia and South Africa and Japan. And they should all just get great contracts to come in here and rape, burn, and pillage and, diminish our industries so that their own could be rebuilt and could, have all sorts of advantages over the American market and have free access to our trade too. I mean, we have been stuck so bad for so long under this phony system. It's not even funny. And, the moment that somebody raised his hand and said, oh, well, maybe you should pay something more toward your own defense costs, well, then he was the bad guy. Trump was the bad guy for suggesting that.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yep. Well, Esper's gone. Thank God. He was nasty. He was a bad man. He was arrogant, nasty in all respects. And, if I were Trump, I would have seen what I could do about him a lot sooner than this. But you see, it's that bifurcated system where you had the municipal government running in parallel to the territorial government. And I just want to remind everybody again that when you see the alphabet soup designation, you're dealing with the municipal government and you're dealing with corporations that are municipal corporations, and you're dealing with agencies which are unauthorized subcontractors of our subcontractors of our subcontractors. So, when you see DOJ and you see FEMA and you see, DOD in all caps, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with the Pope's municipal government. You're dealing with the oligarchs that have usurped against us. And so, anytime you see those sorts of alphabet soup designations, that's a clue, folks. And people like Dr. Esper are indoctrinated communists. They call themselves socialists, and then they call themselves progressives, and then they come up with some other damn name for it. But it all amounts to the same thing. They have this statist view where all power is vested in some almighty, faceless, nameless government, and they're cogs in that wheel, and they think that that's the way it should be. They don't even remember why governments are instituted in the first place. It completely misses them, goes right over their head that the only reason we have a government is to protect people and their private assets.
Yeah, they didn't seem to get that memo.
No, they didn't get that memo. They think that government exists as a predatory arm of force and power to pillage and plunder people. Mm-hmm. And that's what they've been doing. They've been getting away with it since before the First World War. And it's now time that the rest of us stood up on our hind legs and squashed them flat. And I do think that at least some portion of the government did remember its actual duty and is in the process of smashing the swamp. I think that Donald Trump took the pledge to drain the swamp, and by gosh or by golly, he's going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the question is, in a recent article, you stated that the municipal bankruptcy was finished on November 5th.
Yep.
And so what does that really mean? Are all these 3-letter agencies just going to go poof?
They should. They're trying not to. It's like those movies, those comic book movies when you were a kid, where the villain keeps, you kill him and then he resurrects, and then you kill him again, and then somehow or other he resurrects, and then you finally take the wooden stake and the silver bullet and all of the other things you got, and you finally nail the vermin to the pike. But anyway.
Yeah, it's sort of like municipal zombies.
Right. Well, see what happens. Okay, November 3rd, you have the election for the municipal president of the United States, right? That's the municipal corporation, right? But the United States corporation itself is in the very, very, very final stages of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy from which it cannot resuscitate. Okay, so November 3rd, the municipal citizens vote Joe Biden their president. And on November 5th, the corporation that he's supposed to be the president of ceases to exist. Okay. All right. Well, so he's president of nothing because that corporation vanished. It's gone. It's over. So 2 days later, he had nothing to be president of or to preside over.
Right.
Okay, so now here we are, and we're looking at this and we're thinking, well, this is just another big scam. It's just another big rollover where they've got another corporation waiting in the wings. They've booted up some other corporation. They've named it something like United States of United States, or God only knows what. But they've come up with some other name that's similar enough, and they've booted up another municipal corporation, and they're going to try to move Joe Biden over as the president of that new corporation and sail right on. Pretend that, he was elected to be the president of that new corporation and hope and pray that we don't notice. Well, we did notice, and we gave them notice. Okay, so they were trying to finesse a kind of bait and switch, but instead of baiting and switching the candidates per se, what they did is they were actually baiting and switching the corporations.
Right. And you just simply said, oh, well, no contract.
No contract. The old one is gone and we're not accepting a successor. You're out of work. Go home. Pink slip. And forget about, all you federal civil servants out there, all you federal civil dependents. Sorry. And when you catch them at it, it's something that blatant. They really don't have anything to say. I mean, what kind of excuse can they come up with?
They can't. And especially when, you nail it on the head and say, hey, no contract,
No contract.
Period. End of sentence. And I just laughed when I saw that article that you published. I just had a big guffaw. It's just like, oh my God.
Well, we're the employers.
Right.
Don't we get a word in edgewise about who we employ? Does it really matter who's popular with our employees as their boss? It's if you think about it in terms of it being a corporation and being under contract to provide services to you, it becomes very, very apparent that, you don't have to buy services from them. And it doesn't matter how popular some Yahoo is with your employees. I mean, gee, think about it. All your employees get together and they choose Billy as their president.
Well, it's so silly because, I mean, I don't think he was even really that popular because everything that they put out there was fraudulent.
Right. Well, I don't think he was either. I think it was just a big
sham.
Just a big sham, a big fraud game. But then it's been a big sham and a big fraud game on a lot of levels for a long time.
A long time. I was just remarking on that. It's been very interesting for me to walk back in history and take the overlay of the fraud that I'm seeing right now and then put it like on, the FDR experience, the Civil War, World War I, World War II,
Right.
It's the same MO.
Exactly. It's the same thing. And, once you really understand who the parties are and what the parties are and how they're being operated, then it becomes apparent that as the employer, this means nothing to you. I mean, it's like I hired a housekeeping service to come in and do the house cleaning at my vacation property, okay? And so they have a big, employee election, and they elect their favorite employee of the month.
I know.
It means nothing to me, but as an employer, if that favorite employee of the month, according to my subcontractors, is a crook, and I know he's a crook, well, then I have a right as the employer to say, no, I don't want someone like that working for me, and I don't care how popular he is with the other employees who are benefiting from his graft.
Right.
And that's basically what it comes down to. You've got a whole bunch of people who are on the receiving end of all the payola. And they see Joe as the one who can give them the most payola and protection for their illegal racketeering and other coercive activities. Right. And we, as the employers, have an absolute right to say, no, we don't want crooks working for us.
Absolutely.
We don't want somebody who goes over and bullies the Ukrainian government to fire prosecutors so that he can continue to siphon off millions of dollars for his personal benefit.
Absolutely. And if we did keep a crook on the payroll, we'd be complicit.
Absolutely. And so it's up to us to stand up and say, no, as a matter of fact, you have no contract. And we choose not to contract with you because, and we will not accept Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they are crooks. It's our right not to employ communists and crooks. I'm sorry.
Exactly. But the Trump administration was preparing for this election, and they have been preparing for a while now. And they've laid some traps with regard to the ballots and how the ballots are constructed this year and many other aspects. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, you have to understand that you're dealing with a separate corporation. You got two corporations. You got two offices. You got the Municipal Corporation, and it's electing the President of the United States. You got the Territorial Corporation, and it's electing the President of the United States of America. Two completely separate offices. Now, they were working in collusion together because of their 1937 deal.
Right.
But when the United States Inc. disappears, when it's liquidated in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, there's no longer any deal.
Got it.
Okay. Now, what you do learn from reading the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the territorial constitution, And that's just a corporate constitution. It's, it's basically the articles of incorporation for a commercial corporation. It's not really our constitution. It's a knockoff, okay? But you do notice that their 14th Amendment has said ever since the 1860s that it has separate elections. The territorial government elections for the office of the President of the United States of America, their corporation that is power sharing with us, basically, is a closed election. Municipal citizens of the United States are specifically forbidden from participating in territorial elections. It's against their law, okay? And it's published right there, has been for decades. So what's happened is when they sent out the ballots for their election, their territorial corporation election, they watermarked them, which is a British thing, has been used for generations in British government. They watermarked the actual ballots, and they can then reference back to know whether that ballot was issued to a territorial citizen or not.
Very good.
And therefore, they have legal ballots that do apply to their election identified. And anybody who voted in that election who wasn't supposed to vote in that election committed a crime.
Right. And it turns out multiple crimes. There was somebody in Texas with 147 counts.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy out there.
It's crazy.
They did all sorts of things, but just from the sheer numbers of things, you can see that there had to be a whole bunch of municipal citizens voting in the territorial election.
Sure.
You don't even have to quibble about when, how, or where. You can just count the numbers and go, well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
And we can see right here that it's off by, 50, 60 million. It's not off by a small amount. It's a huge amount of municipal voters voting in a territorial election that they are specifically prohibited from voting in.
Right. And the watermarks, there were several different kinds. There were some colors and seals, like in California, they used the poppy and they used a specific Pantone color of red, 192, I believe it was. And then I've heard that there are infrared seals on some of the ballots as well.
Right, invisible seals, so that the perpetrators wouldn't know. They wouldn't be able to duplicate the actual ballots that were issued for the territorial election. So when Mr. Trump is talking about legal ballots, he's talking about ballots that are official ballots for the territorial government election. Not only did the United States lose their presidential office through bankruptcy, but they were trying to claim that because they elected Joe Biden as the president of their corporation, they're now completely defunct and bankrupt corporation, that he somehow also won the office, the territorial office, the president of the United States of America. And he resoundingly did not do that. So what's going to happen here is a recount of the separate election for the separate office. And, there again, we see this bait and switch principle. Oh, well, we're going to elect so-and-so, we're going to elect Joe to be president of the United States. And then we're going to just arbitrarily claim that that means he's also the president of the United States of America. And it doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm. No.
I mean, it did for decades, while the 1937 Declaration of Interdependence was in effect. but it's no longer in effect.
Yep, exactly. It's so interesting. It's just such interesting times.
Learn how to become an American state national or American state citizen by navigating to www.theamericanstatesassembly.net. Links to Anna's articles and resources can be found in the video description box. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing and commenting.